And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are super excited to have Starfleet Lord.
Hell yeah.
I just
Hell
went
yeah.
straight to it. I just put us on the air. We're not really live, by the way.
We don't do this live, no.
No, but I don't edit either, so it's just like it's the same.
So if someone says something horrible, we won't edit it out.
Oh,
but
well,
neither of us would.
But not being live gives me the chance to, just in case you like, what if right now you said something like, I am Zool and I'm here to destroy the earth? I have to cut that out in good conscience. And
I assume that's a Star Trek reference. And that should tell you everything you need to know, dear listeners, about my knowledge of Star Trek.
Oh, wait, I'm still failing. We're live and I'm still not in my headphones. Hold on.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is the part where the audiophiles who listen to our show are going to freak out.
Oh.
Hold on a second. What is going on? Ah! Stand
Hello,
by.
audiophiles.
While I tend to my technical difficulties, Jamie, do you want to give the episode summary? Are you prepared to do that?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the episode this week was season 6, episode 2.
You can't. It's
what?
Not recording correctly. Hold on.
Oh my goodness.
Give me 1 second here. Here we go. All right. The beats. Come on, beats. Do your thing. Connect. All right.
Is this just an issue? You can't hear yourself?
No. Yay! No, you have to be inside my ears, not outside.
Oh, you couldn't hear me.
No, exactly. The whole time I was improvising. I was doing what you do.
Wow, that's nice.
That was my sketch comedy.
It was great. I loved it. I'd watch it again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're
ready to go.
All right, great. Yeah, so we watched season 6, episode 2. That would be an episode called Realm of Darkness. Realm of Fear. I apologize. Realm of Fear. I don't know where Realm of Darkness came from. Sounds like something. Anyway, so all right, we watched Realm of Fear.
Realm of Darkness is just life. Life is just.
Whoa.
It's just really.
That's heavy.
Sorry.
That's heavy.
Sorry.
I mean, it's true. No, it's true, but it's heavy.
Yeah, it's true.
Incredible.
We can talk about that. The Starfleet Boy is a heavy show.
It can be. It can be.
Look at the lighting. Can't you?
It is. It's moody. It's moody.
Yeah,
it's moody and mildly sexually suggestive. Just like your lighting. Cheers. I got some water. Yeah. All right. So, Realm of Fear opens with, of course, the Enterprise coming up on like a lost ship. That was on some mission. Like every episode starts that way. So, they can't communicate with the ship. They can't reach it. They got to go to the ship because the ion field is like too dense between the ships. Everyone knows how that works. So anyway, it's too dense, and they're like, no, we can't just talk to these people. We got to go. So they start beaming people over, and Lieutenant, or is it? Yeah, Lieutenant Reg. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Reginald Barclay. He's an awesome character. I'm sorry you don't know. I'm sorry I gave you an episode where you don't know anything about him.
Go on. It's cool. All right, so Lieutenant Reginald Barclay is asked to beam over to do like some diagnostics on the scene, and he's somehow managed to never beam during his whole time on the Enterprise, and he's very nervous about it. He's terrified.
In today's world, that would be like if you're saying, oh yeah, I'll fly over to do that thing for you, and then you arrive 3 days later and not told anyone that you drove there. That's the same.
That's right.
That's right.
It would be just like that. Yeah. So he describes it as mortal terror. He doesn't go initially. He doesn't go. He actually goes to see Counselor Troy. Gets a little bit of advice, and she like has him like start doing like a little tap behind his ear to release endorphins, which I thought was sexually suggestive as well. But that,
have you ever tried it though? I'm doing it right now, and it really works. Like you feel You like feel really great when you do it. Here, we're plexing right now.
Yeah.
Jamie and I are plexing, audience, in case you're wondering.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man.
All right, I love
It's
it.
good. So he's given this trick, and he like kind of he uses that trick as like a fix all. He's like, yeah, you're right, I can just do that, and it works. And brings himself back over to the holodeck. Is that where you beam from? No. No. No.
I won't interrupt your summary, but we'll
it's
talk
not the
about
holodeck. I know that.
We'll talk about it. The transporter room. Go
the transporter room. So yeah, I have so many terms flying around my head right now.
There's a lot to talk. This is a very technical episode. I apologize for that too, but I have all the answers. So any questions that you have about the technical stuff, I can answer for you.
All right. Well, we'll get to that soon enough. So O'Brien, the engineer, he relates to Reg's fear. I'm just going to call him Reg because that's what he's referred to many times in the episode. So he relates to his fear, or Reg's fear, to a fear of spiders, to O'Brien's arachnophobia. So he kind of like tells him the story about how you know, sometimes you just gotta like dive head first into what you're most afraid of to be able to overcome or live with your fears. And it does work because Reginald Barclay gets on over to that other ship. He beams. He's very nervous about it. There's a whole sequence where you actually see him going through the ion field.
If I'm not mistaken, Jamie, that was the first time being transported was ever depicted on Star Trek. Like,
yeah, it looked like it was the first time. Didn't look that great, but it was cool. It was cool. So he gets over to the other ship.
Have you ever used Dr. Bronner's Castile soap peppermint one? That's what it feels like to transfer. Your body feels like it's just completely been put back together.
Yes, yeah. That's a way, just tingling and doing all that. Yeah. So he gets to the ship. Yeah, he meets up with the team. All of them are like, "Hey, nice of you to show up." And he does whatever he has to do. It's kind of not really important in the episode, but then he's expected to beam back to bring some evidence back to the Enterprise. And he actually, while beaming, sees this like thing in the matter stream. It's kind of like a worm, like a space worm, but really it looks like a space penis. I mean, I can't be the only person who thought this. I really can't be the only person who thought this. It very much looks like a little space penis, just like uncircumcised, like whole foreskin, just going right through. And it like, anyway, it just gets up in his face and stuff, and he's freaked out.
It does look like that, but I swear to you, I never thought of it.
It even has like a weird mouth that keeps opening.
I never thought of it like that, I swear.
It looks like the urethra of the penis. It is concerning.
Now I find that I might be dumb for never having seen that, but that is amazing. That's true.
It was the first thing I thought immediately. Was like, wow, that is and I don't know, I feel like I'm giving off a very dirty vibe so far on this episode, but it's not something
No, that's my official. I from this point on, that's my stance. It is a penis. It might be where all foreskins go to die. Actually, is what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. What it is. We all have one just floating out there.
Go on.
So,
by the way, I have to tell you, your summary is one of the best summaries. So I'm like captivated. Go on.
Great, thank you. I hope your listeners feel the same way. So
I hope so too.
So basically, the episode continues, and actually, I took a note that basically Barclay's fear of transporting is basically like made to be akin to a fear of flying. They discuss the odds of it happening, that you would get lost in the matter stream, and it's almost never happened. It's in theory the safest way to travel, but it's so like unhuman that it is terrifying to him because it's a very unnatural thing. So at this point, we have Dr. Crusher in the lab too. Like they have a body from the ship. Is that right? They have one
yeah.
body.
So when they beamed over and they found this dead guy, but then none of the other crew is around. Like they're
That's
like
right.
right, yeah, they're all missing.
That's right. Everyone else is missing.
The crew ends up being the foreskin.
That's right. That's right. I mean, spoilers, but it makes no sense. But it's just
it is. I just want to remind everyone right now that we're trying to be PG-13.
Oh,
just stay in that whatever you think that is. Just stay in that realm.
Okay.
Audience, also you too.
All right. All right. We're gonna do our best. So
our darndest.
yeah. So okay. So this dead body starts coming back to life. And honestly, I still don't understand the purpose of it in the larger sense of the episode, but we'll just leave that that detail in there for now. And Reg's arm actually starts to flare up with particles, the way you see them in the matter stream.
Yeah, it's true.
But he thinks he's hallucinating. He thinks he is suffering from transporter psychosis, which they elaborate would include hallucinating, that paranoia. He becomes very paranoid, obviously, on the ship, and that there's no treatment for. But really, he's actually more of a hypochondriac. Is kind of what the point of view of the episode is trying to show you at that point. They're trying to suggest that he's kind of like.
There's a lot of humor, I thought, in this episode, and I think those things that you described are all very humorous in a weird way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dark humor.
A dark comedy, yeah.
I thought it was very interesting. I'll just stop here to say this. I thought it was so interesting how the episode, basically the whole episode was just about this thing that they do every episode all the time that we take for granted is just something everyone's cool with. Which of course it isn't. It'd be terrifying if you asked anyone today to be beamed into a bunch of particles and then reassembled. No one would want to do it. It's not.
I'm sorry.
Someone would want to do it.
I would do it.
I know you would do it. I know you would do it.
You trust that. You know me well enough to know that I would do it.
I know you would do it, but so I should say most people would be initially reluctant until. Right. No matter how much science was behind it, we could be shown that it is indeed very effective.
The behind the scenes that you never see, those people that run gung ho into these crazy situations of science.
The red shirts, I believe,
they all sign a disclosure when they join Starfleet that at any minute they could give their lives, right? So I feel the same way. I feel like, you want to test your transporter technology on a human? Absolutely. But yet, if it fails and I die, you have to leave $200 million for my next of kin. and that's, that'd be my stipulation. But then I'd go. At first. Nice. If someone's willing to insure something that much, I would probably do it.
All right, man. I know you would.
Not an invitation. That's not an invitation, corporate world.
Okay. I heard that your country has a space force coming soon, so maybe there's
I would want to wait a few presidencies to join the space force, but I would definitely want to be part of the administrative and brainstorming.
Yeah.
If Source is listening available for consulting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so is Jamie. Actually, Jamie, we could team up and consult Space Force. Let's just do it.
I think we should. I think they're taking private contractors.
This is the Space Force.
If you're listening to this is our idea. Don't just hop on the bandwagon. Let us do it first, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Canada have a space program?
It does have a space program. No, Canada, where I live, Canada does have a space program. We still send astronauts to the International Space Station quite often, actually. We don't launch ships from Canada.
Did you see that movie Life? The horror movie?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it, actually. I do recall.
We won't talk about it on this episode, but you should check it out anyways.
All right, I'll check it out.
Right, back to Barclay.
Right.
So you like this episode. I'm predicting your rating. Go on.
Okay. All right. So basically, Data scanned Barclay's pulse for 20 minutes during a random meeting for some other unrelated activity, and basically he recognizes that like something's wrong with Barclay. He's very anxious, so something's up, and so LeVar Burton has to go over because I believe Reg is his insubordinate. Is that right? Yeah.
Right.
Right. Okay. So he finds him like kind of in distress, and so and then eventually we see him like just pacing around the ship from anxiety. So Counselor.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. What's up?
He was a hot mess. No, sorry.
Yeah, he was totally.
He took me back there. So you're so good at summarizing the episode.
Oh, great! You're rewatching the episode right now.
I was transported.
Right on.
Keep going. Just go.
Well, I mean, that was such a great pun. I just want to say it took me a minute to register that. That was good. Really good. Really good. Seamless. Okay, so Counselor Troy ends up relieving him of his duty, at least temporarily.
Right.
And we see him trying to reduce his stress, etc., with these stress reduction programs. But he can't do anything. He can't stop thinking about it. And his arm, careful, Sohail. Sohail almost just knocked his mic right down.
I got
this is really a wild ride for you. Okay.
It's super. I'm into it.
So Lieutenant Barclay's arm is still like flaring up even more than before, even his face a little bit at some point. He goes down to the transporter room. Anyway, not the holodeck. He goes down there and gets O'Brien. And he like calls him in the middle of the night to like transport him out of the ship and right back into the ship. Because he can't stop thinking about that penis-shaped thing that he saw in the matter stream. So and there were no there were slight fluctuations in his data the last time he beamed, but it's not unusual. So no one really suspects anything. But O'Brien reluctantly does it, and Lieutenant Barclay sees it again, and he starts freaking out. So he actually makes O'Brien call like an executive meeting on the ship.
And wake everyone up. It was true.
Just wake everyone up. We got Captain Picard in there. We got just all the big names.
What is the meaning of this?
That's right. That's
Mr.
right.
Mr.
So at that point, he tells everyone what's going on. And he doesn't show them his arm or anything.
You woke me up in the middle of the night to tell me that you have transporter psychosis. What the fuck? Sorry.
Yeah. We're trying to keep this PG.
I couldn't resist. I know. I'm trying to. We're all trying, Jamie.
All right. So
thank you for calling me out.
No worries. So okay, so Picard actually does the one thing no one has done in the whole episode, which is believe him. And so he basically orders a like really detailed scan and analysis of all the equipment related to the transporter on the ship. And they're eventually testing samples of some sort, and just something explodes. Lieutenant Barclay is down, and his arm is flaring up, and his face is flaring up. Everything is going wild. And eventually they discover that, in fact, there are these microbial life forms in the ion field between the transporters that have entered Lieutenant Barclay's body, which is why they're flaring up every time, because those microbial life forms are also on the samples they were testing. And so anytime he was close to those samples, he'd kind of flare up and be in a lot of pain. So he's not hallucinating, it's revealed. He's not losing his mind. He's actually really suffering from this ailment. Basically, they end up coming to the they come up with this plan. It's the only way to help Lieutenant Barclay, which is that he's got to be suspended in the matter stream for about 30 to 40 seconds
Right. They're
to
gonna
get those microbial life forms out.
right.
Right. So we see him beam up into there. He's terrified. Of course, the odds of him like dematerializing are much higher than they are when they would then if he was in there for 3 or 4 seconds, like they usually would be. So he's in there, and all of a sudden, the penises start coming, just like whoom. And he kind of like he's terrified, but he has like a moment. He has like a really big moment where he just like grabs one.
He does to grab it. He decides to go for it.
He
Right?
just grabs it, and he comes back. So they get him back to the ship in one piece.
Moral
but now,
of the story. Moral of the story. If there's
grab that dick.
If there's a strange penis thing in front of you in the transporter field, grab it. Just grab it.
That's right.
It's not a penis. It's a human being. Go on.
Sir. Timeless advice that anyone can follow. So, yeah, all that to say, he grabs it, and when he comes back to the ship, he's not just holding a penis. He's holding a fully formed human being who was a crew member on the ship from the start of the episode. And so they realized that, as you mentioned earlier, the phallic-shaped things in the matter stream were actually the crew members who've been stuck in the matter stream all this time.
And the only reason they were able to survive is because the matter stream was amplifying their pattern in such a manner that they could last longer than you can in that state.
That's right. So basically, that's basically it. The rest of the crew shows up. They all beam into the field to get the rest of the crew. They save them, and it's all because of Lieutenant Barclay. And at the very end of the episode, there's a little tag where O'Brien meets Barclay at the I call it the Synthahol Club, but I'm not sure exactly what it's called.
10 forward, yes.
Okay, 10 forward. So he meets him there. They're having a drink, and O'Brien actually shows him that he on one of his missions captured a tarantula, and he brings it around with him because he's
it's Christina. It's called Christina.
That's right. Her name is Christina, and he kind of brings it around. It's like part of his dealing with his arachnophobia, and he gets up to go grab a drink, and Lieutenant Barclay, who's now like a changed man, he's strong, he can transport, he's no longer afraid, he's overcome his fears. Turns out it ends on kind of a cute note where like you see that he's actually quite afraid of this tarantula at the end of the episode, but it's just a funny light thing, and I thought it was cute. Yeah, and that's about it. I think that's everything. I really, like I said, I really liked the whole having a look at this thing that happens all the time in the series and actually evaluating it from a very human perspective.
That was a great summary. I really think that it's that whole opening sequence of our show today was 24 minutes. So that's a promising start.
We do tend to go long when we're both on this.
We're playing on Starfleet Boy. We're playing the long game. Like what Simon Sinek talks about, like the infinity, the infinity game. We're not here to like cater to the moment. Weird things happening in the world around every moment. We're gonna just talk about what we saw in that moment.
That's it.
And that's it. That's what it's about.
That's what we do.
C'est la vie, as they say in French. How do you really say that? Can you say it for us?
Yes. Well, just c'est la vie. That's all. Yeah, c'est la vie.
Very cool.
Yeah.
There's a French Star Trek podcast. I don't know I think I told you this offline.
You have. That's right.
And I'm learning French, but I'm doing a terrible job at it. I haven't learned more than than a few things like bonjour, pardon, est-ce qu'il y a une personne qui parle anglais? And that's about all I know.
I mean, that's not terrible. That's not terrible. I think you should just get a translator for the episode. So like you start speaking in English and then your volume like is faded out and we hear a French translator come over.
Can we try that as I do an unsolicited advertisement for Apple? Can you
Okay.
translate me into French? All right, cool.
Okay, sure. You know I'm morally opposed to this, but okay.
All right. All
Let's do
right.
it.
So today's episode is unofficially brought to you by Apple Computers because I had the pleasure of writing my notes today on my
L'épisode
iPad.
d'aujourd'hui vous est... Oh, okay. I thought you wanted me to start as we were going. No, no,
Oh,
okay.
yes.
No, okay.
Okay, wait. I'll pause there.
I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, but we can
translate that. No, I get it. Shorter. I'll go shorter. Go. Translate that.
L'épisode d'aujourd'hui vous est présenté par Apple. Apple, le nouveau iPad extra large avec stylus est parfait pour toute la famille. On est de retour à Starfleet.
I feel like that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I don't think it was that good, but I'm glad you think so. Yeah.
We have a small audience in Montreal, and I think it's just the people I talk to.
You know, whatever.
But it would be very cool for me to learn French. And transport over to Montreal. I have a question for you now that we're in our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you? It's already been tested. Let's say those first people like ran through it already, and like it worked, and they came out themselves on the other side, and they've transported like hundreds of thousands of objects and like animals, and like there's been no problem, right? So now transporters are ubiquitous. Like you're probably, what's this 10 years from now? Let's just pretend. Right?
Sure, absolutely.
Would you then use a transporter?
We're about 10 years away. Yeah.
Would you understand Barclay's fears, or would you be using a transporter to go from like, say like Montreal to LA or LA, anywhere on the planet instantaneously? You could go.
Yeah. I would use it sooner than most, is what I would say. I feel like I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to that stuff, and I'm not very afraid. I understand the fear. I think most like children, when they fly for the first time, are actually quite afraid of the idea of getting in an airplane. It's very unnatural, but you can adjust to those things. And I feel like I am cognizant of that enough to be able to get in there. No problem. I don't think I'll actually ever have to make that decision. But I mean, I would. So. Who likes sitting in a plane for like 6 hours? Nah. If you can just be there in a few seconds.
I think that the transporter is not something we'll ever see in our life. It's really in the realm of Star Trek. Like in Star Trek, 300 years from now, there might be a transporter like what we see on Star Trek, but I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime.
I agree.
But we did see the transportation of an atom though in our
Hell
lifetime,
yeah, man.
Which is kind of amazing.
We're making some big progress. Yeah, let's not knock scientists down.
There is actually
we're making big progress.
There is actually a real effort to do this, and it makes complete sense because it would transform the human race. It would be transformative. if we had transporter technology. It's like something we definitely look forward to and develop.
Same. And if there's, just like a cure or like, something that could extend life between now and then to get us there, I'd be into it.
Me too. There's a wine you can drink that has some kind of magical stem cell technology in it that will rejuvenate you. And I'm not really sure, but it's quite expensive. It's money per glass. It's only vampires can afford it. No, just kidding.
Yeah, that's outrageous. But also the whole concept is outrageous. Stem cells in your wine.
No, it's it's like it's a purified stem cell rich type of beverage that has the same effects as wine. It is wine, I think, with stem cells.
I'm into it. I'm into it. I actually don't think I would drink that. I think it sounds too hoity-toity, maybe a little elitist. But
what if we maybe we could just put stem cells in the water supply?
See, that
would be scary.
That would be. I mean, it would be scary, But it would also be really interesting to see how that like affects an entire population.
Oh
Maybe it would just
no.
prolong everyone's misery, which is not necessarily a good thing. So
It's not easy being a human being, Jamie.
it sure isn't. You know what? It's hard being human.
It's hard being.
We
It's hard out here for a human.
That's right. It is
That's
hard out here for a human. It's tough. It's only getting worse, man. It's only getting worse.
Well, yes. Okay. No.
Do you disagree with that? I know.
No, I told you in the beginning we were dark. We could go dark.
It's a very dark podcast. You heard it here first. Life is not getting any better.
I think what I'd like to say though is that I think that's probably a wrong statement for me. I think life does get better. Like, I remember it being really difficult to be a child growing up in the 80s. You were all in constant fear where I lived. Maybe that was because where I lived. I don't know. But I was in constant fear of shootings and things like that. And so I don't think I would want to go back to that life. Now,
you know what? Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. I mean, so obviously this is a very perspective-driven thing.
Right.
Life is not getting worse for everyone. As a matter of fact, for myself personally, I'd say, things are good. Things as I got older, life got better.
Things are good for me because right now we're hanging out and sharing our friendship, which we do with my entire audience.
That's what we do. We're broadcasting our love to hopefully create more bonds between listeners.
Love lift us all where we belong.
Love inspires love. That's what we're saying.
Oh, look, I have a heart I happen to have a heart-shaped pipe cleaner.
That is very. Were you cleaning pipes at any point?
Yes, I was, but not recently. Like when I lived in Seattle, that's why I have these pipe cleaners.
That was a while ago. Oh, it's cute.
It was over a year ago. I'm so sad. But I love look at this shadow of a palm tree in the background.
It's quite lovely. I had no idea there was a palm tree.
I'm in the tropics. My skin is glowing, rich with a healthy sheen.
I love that. I love that. It's nothing like winter here, where like you need to be fully immersed in a tub of moisturizer for about 3 hours before you're allowed to leave the house.
That moisturizer should have stem cells. And did you know that there are moisturizers? I have to do a plug.
Oh.
It's an obligation. I'm sorry. There are certain moisturizers like those made by Quintessence, which have Swiss apple stem cells in them. And so there you go, Jamie.
That's
you should look up.
Amazing.
Yes.
I am going to look that up. I will live to be 145.
You will. I happen to know from personal experience. Do you know I'm actually not 40? I'm 80 years old, but I appear to be a 40-year-old man. And so there you go.
We like you regardless.
That is not that's not true. Don't go fact checking that. I don't need the X-Files showing up at my doorstep.
All right.
But I mean, if it's Mulder and Scully, they can.
Oh yeah.
I'm down for an adventure.
Has there ever been a hotter duo than
No, there's well, okay, so you've seen enough Star Trek episodes, but Captain Picard and Dr. Crusher have that kind of like
my God.
dynamic.
So actually, in Realm of Fear, there's a scene where everyone's in the meeting scene, and everyone's listening to Lieutenant Barclay, and they were standing so close to each other, Dr. Crusher and Captain Picard, in this meeting.
I do recall the scene you're talking about.
I was like, wow. I was like, that's like, it was kind of like TMI, guys, like PDA, like don't, you know what I mean? But one thing you gotta love about Picard is that he's kind of always like working on
our next joint venture on Facebook. For the audience, you may not understand this completely, but Jamie and I do some artistic projects together, and one of them is our profile. This for example, one of them is our profile pictures. So Jamie, I think that we should recreate the pose. And you would be Captain Picard, of course, and I'll be Beverly, and I will recreate the
flattered. Pose. Okay, no problem.
Well, you have to. You speak French. You're native.
That's right.
That's totally fine.
Young bearded Picard with lots of hair. Yes.
What do you think of someone being born in France having a British accent like Patrick Stewart's? Is it something laughable to you as a European traveled person, as a very well traveled,
Uh,
Europe and back person? Is that weird?
yeah. I mean, I definitely find it odd. I find it odd, but it speaks to the larger trend that used to be very popular, which was if American produced content had anyone from a non-English country, they just had British accents, which doesn't happen anymore. Wait, thank God.
Oh, yes.
Not like a great thing, especially so when it applies from like the English to the French, it's maybe not such a big deal. But when it applies to like someone from Ghana, it's like, hey, they're not. Why are you making them speak in a British accent like that? That's just whitewashing the culture. So as far as Picard is concerned, I have no problems with it personally. Whatever.
It's because Patrick Stewart's such a genius actor that you're like, okay, I can excuse.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
also you could totally have a French last name and be English. I mean,
Oh, that's true. This
his
is true.
parents could have been much like is actually the case. A lot of immigrants in North America, or so not immigrants now, but in when it was just being settled, the early settlers, many of them were French, and they eventually like bled down into the United States after independence happened in the States. A lot of formerly Canadians, I guess, even though Canada was not a country at the time, but French people migrated down to the United States to get away from the monarchy. And so a lot of Americans have French last names that are just pronounced in English ways, much like you would say Picard when it's actually Picard. Or Lafayette, for example, is one that I hear a lot, which Lafayette is a French name. But
That's funny. We pronounce it Lafayette here, I think, or
exactly,
it's
yeah.
a very different pronunciation. Wow.
Over time, the pronunciation just becomes American
Wow.
or English. So I suspect that's actually what the case is with Picard.
I like that.
I've given it thought before. I have given it thought before.
That's really
I'm
good.
glad you asked
really
me.
Good. I have some questions. Let me see if my facial technology. Oh, it did. It worked. I got in to my notes app. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
I'm right here.
Google's been great, but our internet's been bad. So sometimes I did a podcast episode yesterday, and it zonked out.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. It has been a bit wonky at night, but
you mentioned the ship in the beginning. It's the USS Yosemite.
Okay.
And it was caught in a stream of plasma, and that was very techie stuff.
Yeah.
I actually didn't interrupt you in your summary. I was like, oh, you didn't remember the ship.
I just at this point I'm just like, oh, it's another ship that got.
Oh, did you recognize this was my question. Did you recognize the actor who played Barclay at all? Had you ever seen the A-Team as a kid? Or have you ever heard of the A-Team?
I have heard of the A-Team. I did not watch the A-Team, so I did not recognize him. No.
Okay.
Although he did seem familiar. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's Dwight Schultz, and so we have to give a shout out to Dwight Schultz, and he's a genius actor, and he plays Mad Dog Murdoch.
Oh my gosh.
On the A-Team, yeah. So and if you listen, actually, like I have become, this is so weird, but we listen to so much media nowadays. It's like there's constantly stream of information coming through
a lot of
into our lives
out there. Oh yeah, yeah.
How do you think future? We'll have to talk about how you think future people handle that. But anyways, Dwight Schultz is also just really enchanting to listen to, and I can't recall off the top of my head, but if you do a quick search on YouTube for him, you'll come upon many kinds of links to interviews with him, and he's just delightful to listen to.
Let's see. Let me just pull up my IMDb real quick. That's
cool.
That's a plug. Download the app, folks.
Awesome.
It's free. Let's check out Dwight Schultz. See what he got up to after Star Trek. So, Dwight Schultz. Yes. My phone is definitely listening to me because it went right to Dwight Schultz.
While you look that up, trivia bit, the Heisenberg compensators are something that are mentioned when they're dissecting the transporter and looking for clues as to why the transporter's not, functioning, and why these things are happening to Barclay. And that, I think, is a reference to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which is a
yeah, absolutely.
What is that? What would that be called? Like a postulate in physics or something like that? I'm not sure, but
I
a
actually have
theory.
no idea.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. It's a theory.
It's a theory. So,
Theory.
there you go.
You know what? That's way
I know
simpler
it's
than a postulate.
what it is. Sorry, audience, for and Jamie. What it is it's in the title. It's a principle. It's
It's a principle.
It's a principle.
Correct. I mean, it was right there the whole time.
The whole time, right in front of our faces.
The whole time, it was right there.
Did you find Dwight Schultz on IMDb?
Yeah, so he has been doing voiceover work in the video game industry for a long time. I would say he was ahead of his time.
Have you played any of the games that he did voiceover on?
Yes, many of them. He was involved with Crash Bandicoot. I mean, he did so many games. It's actually quite terrifying. Anyone who played Final Fantasy games anytime this millennium, you definitely heard him. He's been in many a Spider-Man game. With the Final Fantasy movie, The Spirits Within, one of the first all CGI movies. So, I mean, wow, this is quite significant. He doesn't do a lot of live action stuff anymore. That's for sure. He was on Stargate, SG-1.
Yes, he was. Did you watch that show? Are you a Stargate fan?
No, it's a good show. I haven't really sunk my teeth into it.
I'd be down to do some Stargate discussions with you.
Oh,
offline, or maybe on the air. We could do an experimental. Stargate. You should. You can become Stargate.
I can be Stargate Boy.
You can be Stargate Boy.
That's me.
Oh my gosh! And we could merge. We could merge our shows.
Yeah,
they could like the Andromeda Galaxy hitting the Milky Way. It could totally be that. Oh, you totally called out in your summary. I wrote notes about your summary.
Oh my gosh!
On my iPad, and you totally called out the parallel. You brought attention to the parallel between flying and driving, or flying being the best kind of way of transporting. That reminded me to point out to you, and maybe this is not news to the audience, but that this was the first time that like we've ever dived this deep into the kind of like the lore, or like the meat of what society is like in the future. And it's
right.
It's really nerdy and exciting.
It's really cool, actually. I think it's one of the coolest things I've seen the show do.
And it's like, yeah, makes you think of, so the new show Star Trek Discovery actually just had a huge this is really, really timely. You're not watching Star Trek Discovery, Jamie, right?
No, that's right.
Okay, so I'm gonna cover your ears, like, if you don't want to know. But the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery deals with something very similar in concept, and that's like an organic version of a transporter. So like imagine if nature invented a transporter. So you like this thing envelops you and then deconstructs you atom by atom, and then you appear on another side of the planet in a pod. And so that's kind of like the equivalent. And so it's such a trippy thing, but travel is such a human. What is your I mean, instantaneous travel is a big thing, and
absolutely it is.
I think it's something we should definitely develop. Elon Musk is not interested. He's going to Mars. It's like, who could we pitch this to? Audience, who could we pitch? Instantaneous travel. Until then, have you ever, Jamie, on a personal note, have you ever experienced anxiety flying? Is that something you want to share? If not, I'll share mine.
Sure. I haven't experienced a lot of it. I think the first time I flew as a kid, I was terrified, and I think all the pressure changes like really psyched me out. The blocking in my ears. I just remember like feeling like my ears were blocked for like weeks after after flying the first time, which they probably weren't. I was probably just psyched out because I never felt that before. So I was like nonstop yawning, chewing gum, trying to like unblock my ears, which no one would fly if your ears were like clogged up for 5 weeks after the fact. But yeah, I mean, I've never really had any serious anxiety. I'm very content to be like, the data says it's safe. I'm fine. This turbulence can't shake me. Even though I feel like I hit a lot of turbulence on every single flight that I'm on.
Oh wow!
I hope that's not like a curse. I hope that's just a normal thing that turbulence occurs all the time.
You can totally relate that to what Barclay, like others may have experienced these like anomalies going, but Barclay's sensitivity to it, like
that's right. Like, that's right. It means something.
It means that if you see a penis in the matter stream.
If we hit turbulence and penises start falling from the overhead compartments, I know exactly what to do. Just grab them. Grab them. Get right at them.
They're human beings. They're not penises. Oh my gosh. This is I don't know what to do. I can't stop.
It's fine. So tell us about your experience.
You've incepted this idea into my brain.
I didn't incept anything. Gene Roddenberry incepted this idea. There's no way no one thought, hey, no, there's no way no one on the production team or in the writer's room or like when they saw the episode, they were like, hey, this is just a penis, right? Like it looks like a penis. A lot. Like a lot. So. It's not
the job of art to be sensitive to its audience. It's the job of the audience to bend to the art. No, I don't know. Something
that's oppressive art. Yeah.
No, I agree with. I don't agree with myself.
Okay.
I take it back.
That's
I was
good.
just trying to find something profound to say about that.
I mean,
to get us out of the penis, the penis mode. It's really me. It's just me who has to get out of the penis mode, and I'm gonna do that.
No. I mean, I'm right there with you. So tell. Yeah, I want to hear about your experience with anxiety. Fine.
Oh, so in first of all, I since you mentioned the first time flying, my very first time flying was close to the age of 2, and all I can remember it's something that I might even be making up. You know how those early memories are; they're just like kind of like pictures, right? I don't know if that's your experience, but that's mine.
Sure.
And I remember being walked through the aisles. It was a long flight. It was from Pakistan to America, and through Germany. It was like a Pakistan, Germany and then to California. So it was a very long flight, and I do remember just like walking through the aisles of the airline and that being like something wondrous. And also the ear popping, I actually remember, but that might be a later flight because I've flown a lot as a child. But the first time I started getting anxiety was not till very recently. We've had a few like airline accidents that in my lifetime, we've had a few airline accidents, and I just like kind of like can't help but get into a flight and think, oh no, is this my last moment on Earth?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but you could also think that every time you get in a car, which has a higher fatality rate, right?
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that like the anxiety does exist, and it's
of
the
course
only
it
thing.
Does.
It's the closest thing I can relate to Barclay with the transporter. Like I actually am flying a lot, and I enjoy it with a little bit of help from the liquor.
That's right.
Loosen up.
Listen up. That's too bad, actually. Have you considered that? How synthahol like cannot work? Like you can't go to the transporter room and be drunk.
You can't go and just like synthahol is an amazing.
Yeah. So if you're trying to like
you
ease
have
up
to face
your tension, you just
in
can't.
the future you just have to face your fears like Barclay does, and I think that's like the ultimate thing. I do remember as a kid feeling when I saw this episode for the first time, I swear I didn't think of the penises. I think I was just a little too young to have made those connections, because I was
Yeah.
that time. And then I think like the second time I watched it, which was more in my adulthood, like in my early 20s, I probably thought that it was like bad, but I don't know that I just never thought it was a penis. Like I need
Well,
for
I
me,
mean,
I need there to be like more
pubic hair, more pubic hair.
there has to be something there has to be something more for it
If
to
there was a scrotum and some curly hair,
but
it would have been a little more obvious.
But you know, we on Starfleet Boy, and this is going to be a secret episode of Drunk Space Nine. I'm I'm just gonna we're throwing out the rating system. Audience, if you've gotten this far, I'm sorry, but it's rated R today. Just tune out if you're not into it.
That's right.
Just
That's right.
out.
If you're a 12-year-old,
Go away.
this is
We
not your
demand that you
episode.
go away. Yeah. YouTube.
And make
I
sure you
think
do your
YouTube does a
homework.
good job. I
All
think it
right.
does a good job. I marked myself, you know, in all the appropriate categories.
Nice.
So we got to go away anyways. Just go.
We're trying to save the episode hard right now.
We're trying to say.
We're hoping this is salvageable. It might end up on Pornhub. This is
the most fun I've had on a Starfleet Boy in a while. This is the most fun I've had hanging out. Just this is what we're doing. We're doing a Google Hangout.
Have you considered posting these videos to Pornhub?
I will not do that.
Like the most explicit ones. It's just a thought.
No,
I mean, you can just make the description like no sex, but a lot of talk about penises. Look, and space penises. There's a market. Anyway, look. So now this episode will definitely not be marketable to anyone under the age of 18. I'm afraid, or whatever the age of consent may be.
I read the big thing, the like legal document that YouTube expects you to read to like. Yeah. Well, you know, like over time.
Yeah. It was like reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
It's not something I read in one sitting. It was more like, oh, I have a question. Let me refer to the.
That's a smart way to use it.
But the problem is that it changes. It's like constantly it's changing. Yeah. It's a living document, you know. So we just go with the joie de vivre here on Starfleet Boy.
Joie de vivre.
Yeah. See, I learned another.
There are a lot of French expressions out there, for sure.
Joie de vivre is a good one too. I mean, so it just feels right, you know. It just feels right. Do you think there's a USS Joie de Vivre out there, like in the Star Trek universe?
Yeah, USS Joie de Vivre. You know, maybe. I mean, how many ships are there? How many USS ships are there?
That's a really good question. It depends on the timeline. A Google search will. I don't have that information on top of my head, Jamie. I'm going to give you an estimate, but a Google search will reveal the actual size of the Federation Navy, if you will.
I don't have Google, so.
What is that?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, what do you?
Everyone has Google. It's not a thing you have. It just Google exists with or without you, regardless of whether or not you want
it. It does.
Yeah. It's like the boundaries of the universe. It's like, no, it's just they're there. You can't do anything about it. You know?
On the Joe Rogan podcast that Joe Rogan called to light in a recent episode, I think it was the one with Brian Cox or someone. I forget which episode it was, but he says that Google removed the "Don't be evil," mission statement from its like.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what he said. I don't know if it's. I don't know where to verify this information from. But.
What a thing to do! Of all the ones to block off, like, do we need "Don't be evil"? Although maybe they're just being honest, because let's face it. They're evil.
I have to say that, like, I think that.
Oh my god, the connection's like going a little deep over here, and I think it's because I just dissed Google.
We're going right back. This Star Trek, because Star Trek actually deals with like evil a couple of times. It's an interesting way of dealing with it, and it. I think Star Trek has always tried to like give a little bit of sympathy to the devil, because the concept of evil is so interesting because I don't know about you, but I like strongly associate. I just bumped my console.
Yeah.
I strongly associate it with the supernatural, but then I personally don't think the supernatural exists. Like I think that
Right.
like what we
Right.
perceive as the supernatural, it may just be another dimension or perhaps like whatever. But so that's a tough question.
That's a super hard question.
That's a tough question. So, like, removing "don't be evil," does that acknowledge that? Oh, maybe you're just trying to say that like true evil is a fiction, or are you? I don't know what. It's going deep.
I mean, yeah, it could be. You're right. It could be. It could be. I just get the feeling that it was like a liability for them. It's like, oh, let's take this.
I
so
think
we
they
can
should.
allow ourselves to be.
I don't know if there's anyone in the audience that listens that is somehow associated with Google, but I propose, and maybe someone else has already proposed this, but maybe they should replace "don't be evil" officially with "it feels good to be good."
It feels good to be good. I like that.
It
I like that
feels
a
good
lot,
to
man.
be good. I mean, like, I think that says the same thing.
Yeah, it does. And from a legal standpoint, it doesn't tell you not to be evil. So, I mean, I'm just saying that's exactly how Google would consider it. They'd be like, it's good to be good, but if you choose to be evil, we won't do anything about it.
It feels good to be good. That should be, in fact, Starfleet
Absolutely.
Boys' first mission statement as a corporation or an entity, if we were one, which I'm not sure if we are. I think we are. It feels good to be good. We shared that with you, Google, if you use it.
All right.
That should be humanity's statement of purpose.
Well, yeah, I mean, it should be. It really, truly should be. And unfortunately, it isn't.
It is in Star Trek.
It is in Star Trek.
And
that's why we have entertainment. To give us, to inspire good things. At least in part, that is why we have entertainment.
This episode this episode is also great, I think, because when I was a kid, the kinds of anxieties I dealt with as like, I think I was like a 15-year-old when this episode aired, were anxieties set around like, just the usual things like romance and like, moving out of the nest, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's interesting how life is later on, how things turn out. But I remember like the plexing was something that I did. And I think and my group of friends, actually, we plexed whenever it was like,
oh my gosh,
it was like a stressful situation. That was a real thing.
Let's flex.
Are you stressed? Then plex. See, look, it's the marketing. Are you stressed? Then plex. So you can plex.
They should add that to the list of Google mantras. If you're stressed, plex.
Do you think that would you, if you were on the Enterprise and you were going through like anxiety, do you like Counselor Troy and how she like does therapy, or would you think she's like too much based on what you've seen of her?
No, I feel like she's good. She's good. She's a little old school. She's very, very involved in the session. She's like, all right, I'm going to tell you X amount of things. I'm going to give you a coping mechanism, do this, do that. I think the new wave of therapy is like a lot more laid back, just kind of like, yeah, I'm listening. And they don't really say much, but they say things, but they're just like, yeah. Yeah, do you think that's because, and then blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, if she was counseling me, I'd be like, okay, cool, let's try it out. Why not? Why not? She seems smart.
Do you sense that they're friends? Because they are.
Oh my gosh, no! Are you serious? That's a conflict of interest.
No, well, so that's the thing. In the future, Counselor Troy, the conflicts of interest don't really exist in the future. Counselor Troy is so professional. Like one of the great things about Star Trek: The Next Generation, I think, as a show, if you go deep into it, is like the one thing they all seem to share in common is that in the end they're always very professional. These people work with each other. and they hold each other's lives in their hands. You know, I mean, like
Right.
if you don't trust Counselor Troy, she may not like, you know, she may not like feel comfortable working with you, and it's like she's not gonna let that happen. She's a pro.
Right. Right. I mean, that's great. I don't think humans could ever pull it
And
off. But
I think that we can. Like psychologists are allowed to have friends, Jamie.
well, of course they are, but I don't think it's well advised for them to like conduct therapy
On a
for
friend.
their friends. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, they
yeah.
became friends through her. That's
Well, that's
the part I
different.
left out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
That
friends
is
because
different.
of the therapy. So you're saying that like this on this whole ship, like Counselor Troy, but she can't be friends with everyone. She's like counseling everyone.
Yeah.
She has
I
to
mean,
like
it's complicated. This
no.
situation is very complicated.
You're like a strict person when it comes to professionalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Dang.
Can't you tell by the way I look?
No. No,
So,
I can't. You look like
oh,
Jesus.
oh, come on.
You
Jesus was mad professional. He was like, I'm going to die for this.
you could play if you're ever interested in acting. I don't know if this is a role that will ever appear, but
Okay.
you could play. I don't think you even know who this character is. You might, but you could play a young Cybok, which is Spock's half brother. He's
Oh,
this, yeah. Cybok is the son of a Vulcan princess. I think you have the. You should be like auditioning for for that
oh.
role.
Get
Yeah,
me
could you
some
imagine putting on pointy ear prosthetics and
big eyebrows.
yeah, having like the Vulcan eyebrows and just being
Oh,
like this like
gosh.
you'd be an uber so Vulcans are you know, a logical society. They value logic in the same way that we would regard religion or, you know, anything.
Right,
Everything is like they serve logic, and they think of it as a concept higher than just like, you know, a philosophy or whatever.
right.
And so they also believe that they should have an emotion. So I don't know why I'm prepping you for this role that you might not even be interested in
I'm
acting
ready
now.
for it. I'm ready.
But anyways, you just look up that you probably already knew all this, but look it up if you
Maybe.
didn't. And go for you just go for a Vulcan, be a Vulcan.
I'm kind of into that. I'm into it.
I have to warn you though, you have to be practiced in not expressing emotion.
Oh,
That's
I
a
sure am.
No, you're not. You're very good at
Yeah,
it.
no. I can be. I can be. I can
No,
do
for a
great.
role. Yes, I agree that yes, you
Yeah,
could. I agree. I have confidence in that.
me too.
Good and proper. What else do we
I
want to
swear.
talk about this episode?
Whatever you would like to talk about, it's okay.
Well, did you have any sci-fi questions, or like do you are there any questions about the transporter? I'm like really excited to like know what you think of that technology and like how it works and like, you know,
Yeah. Okay.
on
So,
Star
like,
Trek.
what's the maximum distance you can transport over?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because, like, there's a
it,
part of me that's kind of like, why don't they
it
just
totally
transport wherever they're
varies. It
going?
totally
Okay.
varies.
Okay.
In this episode, it would not be a great distance. It would be the distance safely you within the safe parameters. I would say it would be the distance of like a standard orbit above a planet to the surface.
Okay.
And that's considering uh, and that of course is like considering that the conditions are favorable, because as you saw in this episode, like they had to link the two transporters together in order to even send the crew over in such a fashion that's not a regular practice. So, you know,
Hmm.
the stream of energy traveling between the two stars was that, you know, it caused that much interference. So it all depends, but like, yeah, I would say standard orbit would be the safe distance you could transport. And that's what is the standard orbit from Earth's surface to the ground? Is that
Uh,
20 miles, I would
I
say?
have no idea. Oh, I use the metric system, but
As a
I'm
matter
not
of
sure what that
fact,
distance would be.
as a matter of fact, in we were talking about traveling by transporter on Earth. Like, I don't know if you know this, but on Earth in the future in Star Trek, like if you look at Star Trek as an oracle for what the future should be like,
Right.
they predict that there still is other forms of transport. Like most people will transport from Miami to, let's say, Pakistan, which is something that I might do
Right.
in the future if I were still born in Pakistan in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
uh, those kind of things you'd still take shuttles for, but the shuttles like take an
Oh.
hour. You like travel on the planet is like fast no matter what. So even if you take, and there's like trains too that traverse the continent. They're floating
Right.
on floating tracks, which is really cool too. So the Earth has like a magnificent array of forms of travel. So I think like the future society has less anxiety about travel because there's a lot more options available, and people aren't stressed out about like traveling one way or another.
Right. Right. There's a wide array of options available. I like that. I like that a lot,
Yeah,
actually. I mean,
yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, obviously they can't just transport everywhere. It would be horrible.
I think
But
in somewhere perhaps there's what is promising is like the Teslas, with the self-driving, just autonomous vehicles. I feel are a very exciting concept because I think that like anyone who wants to automate their vehicle should be able to with like a simple kit or something like that.
yeah.
And the CEO of the company I currently work for, called Compass, portrays this like beautiful kind of vision about a life where you go to bed at night and your car goes out and makes tons of money for you driving around passengers by itself, and then it comes back and parks in its little charging area,
Wow.
and then you get in and you go to work. And like when I think of a vision like that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like you can conceive a world in which like if you're a driver and that's how you make your living, you can actually continue to make that living
Yeah.
by using automation to your benefit. And so
That's really cool. I've never
yeah,
considered that. That's really sweet.
yeah.
Whoa. Yeah.
Make money while
I'm
you
gonna start a
sleep. That's the
business.
slogan. Make money while you sleep. That's how
Yeah.
how
I'm
you
gonna
market
invest
it.
in a couple of self-driven cars and be a billionaire.
I think you should. I think you should.
Hell
At least you
yeah.
can at least live a life. You can at least live a life where you can buy the groceries
Yeah.
and pay
Like
the
$1
rent.
billion worth
Uh,
of groceries. That's nuts.
$1 billion worth of groceries would be an amazing thing if you gave it away to the world.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. I mean, I hope you got some non-perishables in there too, because
it feels good to be good.
it feels good to be good. Well
I want to
said.
mention, Jamie, since we're since we're having such a great time and singing, that you are the audience on YouTube doesn't get to experience this, but for the audience that's listening in podcast form, you are the composer of the Starfleet Boy theme,
That's correct.
and
Sure am.
yeah, and it plays at the beginning of every episode. There's over 100. Well, sorry, in the beginning of from season someplace on, but we have over 100 episodes, so you're played a
Congratulations.
lot.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is the
Yeah.
official theme, and it will be until ad infinite. Well, I have to ask you or commission you to do one for the original series, which is the next Star Trek adventure.
Oh, well, that's
But
exciting. I did not know
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
you have plenty of
absolutely.
time. We have a whole season. It's gonna be another year, I think, until we're done
Yeah, yeah. No, no,
with
no. But
Star
it's
Trek: The
good to
Next
have work coming
Generation.
down the pipeline. It's good to have work
Yeah,
coming down the
but just
pipeline.
mull over that and think of the original series, because you are it's like I saw this documentary with Steven Spielberg working with John Williams, and if Starfleet Boy wants to work with someone, it's gonna be you. And so therefore, I also recommend you to our audience at large. Uh, Jamie
Yeah.
does awesome things with music.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Can
Uh,
we take this moment to also bring light to an album that you just released? And do you mind
sure.
telling the complete? Imagine that you've never heard of you as an artist. Do you mind pitching to
Okay.
my audience who you are?
Yeah, sure. I write and record under the artist name Find. That's spelled F?ND. And in October of last year, I released a dark wave EP. So that would be dark synthwave music. It's instrumental. If you're familiar with synthwave, it's synthwave with a little moodier, kind of like this show. It's very dark and heavy. So I released an EP by the name of Temper Tantrum. which is available on all major streaming platforms. So Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, YouTube Music, Google Play, all of them. It's also on SoundCloud. You can purchase it on Bandcamp. You can purchase it in the iTunes store if you like. And that's about it. Just like check it out. Give it a good listen, especially if you're into instrumental music or electronic music as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. That's what I do. Was that an
Very
okay?
cool.
Was that an okay pitch? Yeah,
I think you did. I think you did a good job. I mean, like, I think that I was gonna interrupt you at one point, but you filled in the part.
Look, if you like the music of someone like maybe John Carpenter, you'll probably like this.
Oh wow! Well, I didn't
there's
know.
There's an elevator pitch.
I didn't know to. I don't now have to listen to John Carpenter's music. That's awesome because I like your music, so I can only imagine I'm gonna like John Carpenter's music. So thanks.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
You actually have incepted beautifully. I have iTunes Music, and I use the algorithm to create these like new playlists and things like that. And
sure.
I love whenever you introduce a new artist into your playlist, it allows that music to like it changes the whole thing. It's a really cool. I don't know how it works in the background, but
yeah.
But it was neat. Today I was listening to my chill mix, and you came in. I immediately was like, oh, that's Jamie. Like it put you in there, and I was like, oh,
nice.
That's really cool.
That,
I don't know how it did that, but
that's
you
really
made
cool.
it in there.
I have no idea how it does that either. And they won't tell me how they do that for sure.
Unless you wanted to work for them and like
I mean, yeah, if I wanted to.
They being Apple.
That's right. That's right. I would never.
What are you kidding? Apple's a great company to work for.
I would never.
No, you should. I'm forcing you to take that back.
I'm too anti-establishment. I'm too.
I don't know what that. You are the establishment. I don't know what you're.
I mean, I am the establishment.
I know, so I don't understand why you're anti yourself. You're a great person. Stop being.
Well, thank you. No, it's just I'm more of a small business guy. I'm a
yeah. So I mean, but Apple's dry.
Apple's one of the biggest companies in the world.
I know. They're like Google. Business. They're just everywhere. It's like you have to.
Yeah. No, I mean they're great. They're great. I'm not knocking Apple. Everyone buy a PC. I'm not knocking Apple.
I hope in French you didn't say some horrible things when you were doing.
No, I didn't. I grit my teeth the whole way through, but I said some nice things about the iPad.
Well, not a great many people have probably made it this far into our discussion because we haven't really talked about Star Trek, so it's okay.
We usually don't.
Was there any other question about the transporter technology or even about Barclay or any of the characters?
Does Barclay come up? Is Barclay in any other episodes of the show?
Yeah, I think you can easily, if you go back and, do the Dwight Schultz IMDb Star Trek filter or whatever, right? You can see his other episodes. I highly actually, if you're bored and just have a beer and watch the other episodes because they're all delightful starting from the first one. And he'll keep on coming back. And he actually, the character traverses, I don't think he appears on Deep Space Nine, but he may, and he definitely appears on Voyager.
Oh,
and he's actually crucial to the ending of Voyager. And he comes back in the film. So Barclay is like a beloved, and he's like the Q, or like, he's the character that they keep bringing back, and I think everyone, the majority of people agree that he's like a favorite, a fan favorite.
Oh wow! Well, I'm happy. I'm glad I got to watch one of his episodes then.
What was your since this is your first exposure to him, what were your impressions of this character? Like, what were your raw feelings when you?
I felt like he was meek. He was very meek.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that may just be how he probably is, just how he was portrayed in this episode, given the circumstances. But I was kind of like, oh, this dude looks like he's always in a flop sweat, like just like panicking, late to work every day, kind of like, like maybe he forgets to brush his teeth a few times a week. Like, yeah, you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I got. But I liked him. He was endearing, and he was very human. Yeah.
that's like definitely part of his struggle. You kind of nailed it. So yeah, I would say that that's true about him. But he my lighting too, like I got really monochrome.
Yeah, you
Here.
are. That palm tree is gone.
Let me demonstrate. We've been talking for a long time, Jamie. We
Yeah,
should probably wrap up
the sun
the
has it.
podcast
Yeah.
soon. But
Okay.
let me demonstrate Apple technology at its finest.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
Everyone brace
hey,
yourselves.
hey Siri, change the lights to yellow. Ta-da!
Oh my goodness. That's like a nice yellow.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It's
Okay,
got
let
a
me try
little.
this. Let me try this. Hey Siri, turn the lights to blue.
I have to do it. Hey Siri, turn the lights to blue.
Oh.
There you go.
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, now if someone's listening to this, we probably just annoyed the hell out of them because
Nah.
we may have changed their lights.
Well, if you're listening to this, maybe check out the YouTube. Maybe check out the
YouTube.
YouTube video.
Check it out. Check it out. All right. I don't have
Wait.
anything
Hit
else.
the like, subscribe.
Oh yes.
That's
Hold
what
on.
you do on YouTube.
I have to
Yeah,
leave
hell
like
yeah.
a. I think we should give it our. Oh, look this! Look at this lighting.
You look great. You look stunning.
The iPad lighting. Hello.
It's your natural state of existence. Oh, look at those gorgeous notes. You always have such nice notes. Mine, not so nice. Just plain old handwritten notes, like some ancient antiquity. I think that's vaguely paradoxical, but it doesn't matter.
It is vaguely paradoxical. But anyways, Jamie,
Hey.
what do you rate this episode? And
okay, I am gonna give this episode a. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Is that am I rating these out of 10? I know I usually say something ridiculous. I'm gonna rate this a flying space penis out of 10, and I mean it in a good way.
I meant to give my rating first. You beat me to it.
Oh,
I have the same rating.
I prematurely rated.
We're totally aligned on our rating of this episode.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, yeah. I mean, I thought it was a great episode in the sense that the idea behind it was awesome. As a 21st century human who doesn't get to deal with any of that technology, it was great to be reminded that a lot of these mundane things are actually quite terrifying, or can be terrifying, and that space is scary. And technology can be a little scary. I thought it was my introduction to Lieutenant Barclay. Really interesting character, well acted, and I was glad that they didn't assign too much importance to the actual mission, which wasn't that interesting, but they knew not to. So yeah, it was great, solid 8 out of 10.
Excellent. I just adjusted my lighting.
You manually adjusted your lighting like some ancient antiquity.
Starfleet is such a long show that like we have to traverse from like day to nighttime.
It is, yeah.
It's like so crazy.
We
go
on.
I have to agree with like some of the stuff that you said in your summary about the effects. Not, or I don't know when we were talking, but like you said, like the effects weren't, the greatest, like, and things like that. But I do think the remaster, like the original effects, were kind of like a lot worse. And in the remaster, I found it delightful to see how the transporter field looks and things like that. But it did still feel like the worm penis / foreskin thing was was not quite well thought of, and like it moved in a clunky manner, and it definitely looked like a puppet.
Yes. Yes.
And so it was definitely like a failure of the episode, and I think like so I can't in good conscience give it a higher rating than 8. But the reason it gets an 8 for me is just the performances were like outstanding as usual at this level, at this point in Next Generation. and there's a lot of thought-provoking concepts. And I have to say that like I actually found myself remembering those things as an adult, and it's nice. And we had some of that introspection in our discussion, even, which was, you know, for better shared. But I think that many who watch will also feel that. So yeah, an 8 is the rating for this episode. I agree.
Yeah, I love agreeing.
Yeah, so 80 minutes later, we come to a close. I had the time of my life.
So did I.
And I owe it all to you.
I owe it all to you. And love lift us up where we belong, just to bring
it's
it back.
true.
Yeah.
It's true. Jamie, thank you for doing this.
No problem, Starfleet.
We'll continue our conversation offline. Audience, I'm sorry you can't. I know it's enticing, but you can't stick around.
Yeah.
For more. I apologize, but we gotta like follow some kind of decorum and be professional.
Sorry. Yeah.
We have to be professionals.
Yeah.
True. All right, so
you'll have to pay for the meet and greet if you want to talk with us more.
All right, translate this to French, please.
Okay.
As the job of the official Starfleet Boy French translator.
Oui.
Also, Sean speaks French, who's on many of the episodes of Starfleet Boy, but you're the official translator. I'm gonna let him know.
I'm flattered. All right.
So, live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.
Live long and prosper, et on vous voit la prochaine fois. I don't know how to say live long and prosper in French.
But you didn't do the. Can you do it? Are you able to? Oh, it's right hand, but it's supposed to be your right hand.
Oh, right hand.
Yeah, it's fine. There you go. All right, now say it again. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
See you next time.
À la prochaine fois.
Nice. Yes.
It's actually à la prochaine. Sorry, let me do that.
Okay.
Live long and prosper. À la prochaine. There you go. I looked into the camera for it too. So if you're watching on YouTube.
That's awesome. Merci beaucoup.
Baby blue eyes. All right.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye bye.